The country that abandons the elderly, the filial son and his hidden father. This story depicts a series of events that take place in a certain kingdom in India. In this kingdom, there was a cruel law to abandon the elderly, and it was stipulated that those who went against it would receive severe punishment. However, now begins the story of a minister who challenges the cruelty of the law and his wise father. This story speaks of the courage to face difficulties, deep filial piety, and the value of infinite wisdom. The challenge from the heavenly deity that shakes the kingdom, the trials to save the country, and the ultimate salvation. This is a story that holds immortal lessons, passed down through generations. Long ago in India, there was a country that abandoned the elderly. The law of this country stipulated all the elderly should be abandoned in a faraway place, and those who did not comply would face heavy punishment. In various parts of the city, people could be seen every day taking the elderly to abandon them while crying. However, the people of the city merely watched these scenes in silence. There was nothing they could do as long as it was the law. One time, the father of a certain minister also reached the age where he had to be abandoned. But this minister was extremely filial, so he simply could not bring himself to abandon his own parent. So he dug deep under the floor of a back room, created a basement, and had his father live in it. And he secretly took care of him every day. One day, in the king's court, a sudden change occurred in the space dominated by silence. The air trembled, and just as a light flashed, a heavenly deity appeared amidst a radiance emitting divine light. His appearance was full of dignity and cloaked in a mystical atmosphere. The deity spoke while showing the king two snakes he held in his hand.
"Behold, O king, if you can distinguish the sex of these snakes, I shall guarantee the safety of this country. However, if you cannot, your life and this country will perish after 7 days."
The king trembled in fear at those words, and while growing pale, hastily summoned his ministers. The ministers gathered in the palace hall were shaken by the king's grave expression and the presence of the heavenly deity.
Is there no one who can distinguish the sex of these snakes?
The king asked, his voice trembling as he looked around at everyone. The ministers looked at each other with deep concern.
"Unfortunately, we cannot answer,"
they replied quietly. In this situation, the king was even more perplexed, and considering the safety of all the people in the country, he could not simply sit idly by. So the king decided to issue a proclamation throughout the country. To all the people of the nation,
Is there no one who can distinguish the sex of snakes? A reward will be given to the one who distinguishes them splendidly,
he announced. This proclamation was posted in town squares, markets, and on village bulletin boards, and messengers were dispatched to quickly spread the word to distant villages. Among the people throughout the kingdom, anxiety and expectation intermingled as they hoped for the appearance of someone who could solve this difficult problem. The king watched the movements of the people from the window, his thoughts on this difficult problem upon which the fate of the country rested. 2 days passed, 3 days passed, but not a single person appeared at the castle. The king became so worried that he could not sleep at night. The filial minister in question was also at a loss and consulted his father in the basement. The father easily provided an answer.
"How can you not know such a simple thing? To distinguish the sex of snakes, place them on something soft. The one that thrashes about violently is male, and the one that stays still is female."
The minister hurried to the castle and conveyed this to the king. The king was overjoyed and immediately answered the heavenly deity. The heavenly deity was satisfied with this answer, but immediately posed the next difficult question to trouble the king.
"Those who are asleep are said to be enlightened, and those who are enlightened are called asleep. What does this mean? Try to answer."
The king again gathered the ministers and racked their brains, but no answer emerged. The filial minister went home and again asked his father in the basement.
"What in the world does this question posed by the heavenly deity mean?"
The father answered,
That refers to people who are still in training with much to learn. Practitioners are called enlightened by ordinary people. but to the enlightened, they are still merely asleep.
The minister hurried back to the castle and conveyed those words to the king. The king promptly answered the heavenly deity. The heavenly deity was satisfied with the king's answer, but posed yet another difficult question.
Here is a large white elephant. Answer how much this elephant weighs.
The king and ministers could not solve it this time either. So the minister again sought his father's wisdom.
Have the elephant board a boat and mark how far the boat sinks. Next, load stones whose weight has been measured in advance onto the boat. When the boat sinks to the marked point, the weight of those stones is the weight of the elephant.
Thus, each time the king solved a series of difficult questions, he found a ray of hope to protect the peace of the country. However, the heavenly deity's challenges knew no end and posed new problems.
What does it mean that a single scoop of water is more than the water of the great ocean?
The heavenly deity asked in a cryptic voice. In response to this question, the minister again decided to borrow his father's wisdom. When the minister visited his father, the father welcomed his son with a calm expression. The minister conveyed the heavenly deity's new question to his father and sought an answer.
If one offers a scoop of water to the Buddha, monks, parents, or those suffering from illness, in return for that good deed, the Buddha will grant limitless happiness. No matter how much ocean water there is, it will eventually run dry. Compared to the Buddha's great blessings, there is a difference as vast as heaven and earth. In other words, it means that the heart of making offerings is deep and vast.
The father taught. With this wisdom in his heart, the minister returned to the king once more. When he faithfully conveyed his father's words, the king quietly savored those meaningful words for a while. However, each time he heard the answer obtained from the minister's father, the heavenly deity posed one new difficult question after another, troubling the king. These difficult questions were not merely a matter of wisdom, but a test of the maturity of the hearts and depth of compassion of the king and his ministers. It was hoped that through these trials the kingdom's future would become brighter. The bonds and cooperation to overcome difficult situations deepened between the king and the minister, and between the minister and his wise father. Next, the heavenly deity appeared as a human as emaciated as a skeleton and asked the king,
Is there anyone in the world who suffers more from the pain of hunger than I?
The ministers once again pondered earnestly, but no one could produce an answer. When the minister returned home and asked his father, the father immediately answered,
There are people who do not believe in the three treasures of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha due to greedy hearts and jealousy. There are also people who cannot serve their parents and elders. After they die, they fall into the realm of hungry ghosts and cannot put water or food into their mouths for an unimaginably long time. Their bodies are as heavy as mountains, their bellies are as deeply hollowed as valleys, and their throats are as thin as needles. Hair like awls clings to their bodies and hangs down to their feet. They cannot move their bodies, and flames blaze up in their joints. The suffering of such beings is millions of times worse than the heavenly deity's suffering of hunger.
When the king heard this from the minister and answered the heavenly deity accordingly, the deity transformed again. He took the form of a person with shackles on his hands and feet, chains around his neck, flames bursting from his body, and his entire being burned and blistered.
Is there anyone in the world who suffers more than I?
Not a single person could answer this question. So the minister asked his father again.
In the world, there are those who do not show filial piety to their parents, harm their elders, betray their husbands, and revile the three treasures. Such people fall into hell in the next life. Mountains of needles and trees of swords, chariots of fire and burning coals in furnaces, excrement gushing out in rivers and hollows. They must walk paths of blades and paths of fire. In hell, there are endlessly numerous and varied sufferings like these. Compared to the heavenly deity's suffering, the sufferings of hell are millions of times more terrible.
The king conveyed this answer from the minister's father directly to the heavenly deity. This time, the heavenly deity appeared transformed into a beautiful woman.
Is there any woman in this world as beautiful as I?
No one could answer the heavenly deity's question, so the minister again consulted his father.
In the world, There are those who deeply revere the three treasures of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, show utmost filial piety to their parents, and diligently give alms. They endure, strive diligently, and properly keep the precepts. Such people, after they die, are reborn in the heavenly realms and take on exceptionally beautiful appearances. Compared to this beauty, the woman the heavenly deity has transformed into is like a blind monkey.
The king once again answered the heavenly deity exactly as the minister's father had said. Then the heavenly deity showed a sandalwood piece cut into a perfect square and asked,
Which end of this wood is the root, and which is the tip?
Unfortunately, the ministers could not answer this time either. And the minister asked his father again.
It's a simple matter. Throw that wood into the water. The root end should sink down, and the tip end should stand up.
Thanks to the wisdom of the minister's father, the king was somehow able to answer the heavenly deity's question this time as well. Furthermore, the heavenly deity showed two mares with exactly the same coat color and build and asked,
Which is the mother horse, and which is the foal?
Again, no one could answer, so the minister asked his father once more.
Try giving grass to the two horses. A mother will feed her child even if she herself does not eat. It should be no different with horses. She will surely push the grass towards the foal.
The king told this answer to the heavenly deity. Thus the king was able to answer all the questions. The heavenly deity was greatly satisfied and promised to give the king many treasures.
From now on, I shall protect your country from any foreign enemies.
The king was overjoyed to hear these words and summoned the minister to ask,
I was worried about what would happen for a while, but thanks to you, we were saved. If there's anything you want, don't hesitate to say so. Even so, I'm amazed you were able to solve those difficult problems. I would have been completely hopeless. Did you figure those out yourself, or was there someone teaching you? Tell me honestly.
The minister answered.
Your Majesty, actually, those answers were not my own ideas. If you promise not to become angry no matter what I tell you, I will speak honestly.
The king nodded deeply and said,
I promise. Even if you have a crime deserving of the death penalty, I will never punish you. All the more so if it is a minor offense.
The minister continued,
Thank you very much. Then I shall speak. The law of our country strictly prohibits supporting the elderly. Actually, I too have an aged father, and he reached the age where he should be abandoned according to the law. But when I thought of the debt of gratitude for raising me, I simply could not abandon him. So I dug a basement in my house and have been hiding and caring for my father until now. The answers this time were entirely due to my father's wisdom. Your Majesty, please, so that the elderly throughout the country may live in comfort and peace, could you not change the law?
The minister pleaded with the king, tears streaming down his face. The king learned that the minister's father had answered all the questions and was impressed by the depth of the elder's wisdom and deeply grateful that the country had been saved thanks to him. The king treated the minister's father with great hospitality and revered him as his teacher.
I am deeply grateful. The wisdom of the elderly is far greater than the merits of treasures or military power. The law until now was wrong. From now on, the aged must not be abandoned. It's because there were no elders that I too was foolish. We must strive to revere the elderly as the nation's treasure and show them filial piety.
The king immediately changed the law and issued a proclamation that from now on, anyone who did not show filial piety to their parents or treated the elderly badly would be severely punished. This story provides several important lessons to modern people about how to interact with the elderly and when they themselves become elderly. The first is respect and reverence for the elderly. The story depicts the cruel custom of abandoning the elderly, but ultimately, by the wisdom of the elderly saving the country, it shows the importance of respect and reverence for the aged. In modern society as well, it is important to have respect for the elderly and recognize their experience and knowledge as valuable. The second is intergenerational bonds and communication. The relationship between the minister and his father shows a deep bond that transcends generations. It teaches us how important communication is between parent and child, or between different generations. Through conversations and activities with the elderly, we can learn different perspectives and life wisdom, and deepen our understanding. The third is the importance of filial piety. Filial piety is a central theme of this story. It shows that a heart of gratitude and respect for one's family, especially parents, elevates an individual's character and promotes social harmony. In order to receive the same respect and affection when we ourselves become elderly, it is important for the younger generation to hold this value. The fourth is society's responsibility and the role of the elderly. The story emphasizes that the elderly play an important role in society. The experience and wisdom of the aged can contribute to the benefit of society as a whole. Therefore, it is important for society to support the elderly and provide an environment where they can thrive. The fifth is the value of each individual. The story conveys the message that regardless of appearance or age, every person has intrinsic value. Young and old, men and women, everyone is an important member of society, and each has unique abilities with which they can contribute to society. In this way, this story provides many lessons not only about how to interact with the elderly, but also about human relationships and social values.